why am I binging and hoarding this in the middle of the night when I could just eat 4 small meals a day in a healthy way? If the cookies aren't putting weight on me, then the healthy food certainly isn't. Why am I so afraid to eat? Why am I so afraid of these cookies? It's a calorie is a calorie. I don't know, and it just slowly started seeping in that I shouldn't be afraid.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a mom, physician, life coach, musician, author, publisher, and I am passionate about helping others reclaim their stories so they can build their most beautiful and healthiest lives. Today, we have such an inspiring guest on the show. I'm so excited. We have Aesha Waks. Aesha is an author, actor known for her roles in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Gotham, model, singer, dancer, and anti-bullying advocate. Aesha has shared her struggles with anorexia and now helps others embrace healthier ways to pursue their ideal fitness and body weight with her book, The Model Body Plan. Aesha was Miss New York for the Women of Achievement pageant, and she is also a New York certified peer specialist, among many other talents. Thank you so much, Aesha, for coming on the show today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. The high points that you gathered about me. I appreciate that.
As we said off camera before starting taping, I don't think that I've captured everything because you're truly a woman after my own heart, someone who isn't afraid to really step into the fullness of everything they want to do. I think many of us, when we're young, especially, we may do one thing, like be the bubblegum girl in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for example, as was your story. And you were doing modeling and all of these amazing things. And we may inadvertently pigeonhole ourselves into this is who I am. This is my story, instead of allowing our life to really unfold and embrace all of the facets of who we are as a person. Tell me about how you got started in the entertainment industry and then how your life really unfolded to be so rich and full of different interests, passions, and pursuits.
Thank you. You know, I didn't really do so well in school with the other kids, and initially I was taken into the popular group, but I didn't understand what it was to sit at the back of the bus or at a certain lunch table because I was just a kid. I didn't really know that was anything special or anything like that, but I was very shy. When people got to know me a little bit better, my personality, it just didn't work with like anyone. And I did try to be in different groups, like the art group. I guess I was too bold for that. The popular group, I was too like anti-society for. And and I just never really fit in anywhere. But like when I volunteered to star in the school play, everyone was so shocked because of. I mean, I am quite shy, even though I'm bold. Um, it just worked well for me, and they were embracing me in the theater community like I've never felt before. And I just kept going with that. And my parents put their stamp of approval on it because they saw that I was happy. I was coming out of my shell. I was accepted in that world. So that was a lot of it. Like the social aspect was a lot of it for me. And it just never left me. I kind of got the bug, and it's never going to leave me. It's just I'm infected, you know?
What was it that you loved about the process? Was it a little bit of everything? Was it the preparation, being on stage, telling stories in that way? What were the things that really gave you the bug, as you said?
I liked the fact that it was predictable because I could read a whole script and know what was going to happen to the character, and I could just live my fullest self within that moment without the fear of being abandoned once again after the next scene. It gave me confidence to live a full life as that other character because I was always so afraid that someone would get to know who I truly am and hate on me again because of it. So it was a lot of fun for me. And then of the stage, just hanging out with people, like they expected you to be a little bit unique or different because you're in the arts. So it was almost like I had a little bit more freedom to be me. Not complete freedom, but more freedom,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah. Do you think that as your career and life has unfolded, do you think you've gotten to the point where you feel comfortable stepping into your complete authentic self? Or do you still feel that there's some being held back? Where are you now with that?
Feel like I'm fully there, but it's definitely up in the high 90s, with a slight chance of rain. I don't think I'm fully there yet. I don't know if anyone will ever be there, and I don't know if it's a good idea for anyone to get past 99.9% rate, because then if you take away that 1% chance of change, where's the excitement in that? So,
Mm. That's a really interesting way to look at it. So how
thank you.
did you go from being on the stage in your school to then being in a movie and then continuing down that path in the entertainment industry? What did that look like for you?
And it's a good question. My mom, who was my biggest supporter, now keep in mind, God rest her soul, she did die of brain cancer really young, which was a horrific experience for her and my family. Um, but she supported the fact that I was happy in this career. And she was looking through Backstage magazine, and there was this audition for this movie called The Money Shot. And the director's name, Matt Mailer, she recognized that his father was Norman Mailer. And she really loved Norman Mailer's writings. Such a genius writer. She was more familiar with him than me, but he actually wrote the biography of Marilyn Monroe.
Mm.
And she said, well, if Norman is so talented and this is his son, he's probably an extremely talented writer too. If genetically he picked anything up from his father, you should go down to this one. And because it was my first professional project off the stage, I've only done theater at that point. They put me through 7 callbacks to get this. And even after the 7th callback, it was only when Norman said to Matt, I think you should give this kid a chance, even though this is her first time. It was his belief in me that allowed Matt to hire me, and I actually won an acting award for that. And it was my first project. My
Wow. That sounds like kismet.
right? And
Hmm.
then just kept on going, and I ended up someone ended up seeing the footage of that film, and this director, Hannah Weyer, she was hiring a cinematographer and saw his reel and saw me on his reel and literally picked me to star in Arresting Gina based off of this reel. I didn't even know I was being auditioned. Now, this movie was with Summer Phoenix and Sam Rockwell and Adrian Grenier and Paul Giamatti, and they just put me in the lead role just based on this footage, and I won another acting award for that. So my parents just wanted to keep me in the industry because they saw there was something I was actually good at. So I stuck with it, and it's still the only thing I know how to do. And like when it comes to writing my books and stuff like my peer advocacy and everything we're about to talk about, that's all in characters as well. That's the same thing as acting. That's really all I know how to do.
Well, it's interesting. I like the segue that you've set up because, acting is storytelling and writing is clearly storytelling, whether it's
There you go.
writing even something as small as an ad, right? You're trying to express something in a short period of time, or whether it is writing a screenplay or a book. And from reading about you and your experience getting started as a writer, what I understood was that as you were navigating some life and health challenges, you turned to journaling. And that was really the beginning of leaning into this new way of telling and sharing stories off of the stage?
I love how you put that. Um, I felt like journaling was something I did so often that I actually had enough material for books. So I'm on my like seventh book I published right now because all I do is journal and I just publish my journals. I never hire an editor, and it's never proper the way I write. It's just the way I think. And if people want to see how I think, I don't even claim to be a writer. I just put out books. I'm just talking in the books as myself. I'm probably a trash writer, but I express my thoughts through words and I publish them. I'm good at words, but not writing, probably.
When you talk about what you tap into when you're writing, share with us how your own experience with an eating disorder and understanding that you are a young woman growing up in the 90s and the 80s, just like myself, we were exposed to a lot of really unhealthy imagery, and a lot of us were just exposed to it on the shelf. Others of us that were in the entertainment industry, myself as a musician, yourself with your modeling and your work in movies, the pressure was quite high to maintain a certain body weight and shape and style. What was that like for you? And when did you first understand that you had a problem with the connection between how you felt about your body and how you were eating and the truth of who you were and what you needed nutrition wise? What do you think were the external factors that contributed to you developing an eating disorder? And how did you, as you were growing and learning more about yourself and traversing through the industry, how did you learn to manage that disorder?
Um, the industry, as well as myself, we all looked up to Kate Moss. And she is till this day one of my biggest inspirations. But I felt fat next to her, and it's not her fault, but I did. And I felt like in order to be successful, I have to be skinny too. And that went on for years. And it's not just her, but she was a part of it. Audrey Hepburn was also a part of it. And at a certain point, my mom wanted to send me to the hospital. I got so skinny. And I said to her, listen, I caused this and I could heal it too. So just give me time and I'll read everything I can and I'll do everything I can to heal myself. And I started coming up with a journal every day of how I was gonna put some weight back on, not be afraid of food. And anyone that's read my book knows this aspect about my book. I have this like one theory that I blame on Oreo cookies. And so basically, when I would starve all day, I would wake up in the middle of the night so hungry that I would just put down sleeves of Oreo cookies in the middle of the night. And I started realizing that I wasn't putting on any weight by this. And I looked at the calorie count. Now I'm about 5'3", and I'm allowed about 1,450 calories a day. I wasn't eating more than that in Oreo cookies, and I realized that maybe it may not be the healthiest way to eat, but as long as I'm eating like 1,450 calories a day, I'm not going to gain weight. Why am I binging and hoarding this in the middle of the night when I could just eat 4 small meals a day in a healthy way? If the cookies aren't putting weight on me, then the healthy food certainly isn't. Why am I so afraid to eat? Why am I so afraid of these cookies? It's a calorie is a calorie. I don't know. And it just slowly started seeping in that I shouldn't be afraid of that. And I started going to the gym. My mom hired me a trainer, and I started eating a couple of meals a day, like 4 meals a day. And just, I was in great shape. I wasn't anorexic, borderline anorexic anymore. I didn't have body dysmorphia anymore. Like, I started just getting better and better every day. And I put a book out on it to show that it is possible.
Mm. Do you feel that you've healed your relationship with food? Or do you think that
A
a
hundred.
part of that, 100%, you've
A
healed your
hundred percent.
relationship with food?
Yeah, I have
Mm.
a very interesting relationship with smoking though. That is not healed.
Mm.
Yeah. And that
Mm.
is part of the whole glamour, like supermodel era, like Audrey Hepburn grabbing her Louis Vuitton and going to Paris with a cigarette in her mouth. Like the whole
Mm.
identity that I see with smoking, and these icons that were deeply embedded in my mind growing up, that is a challenge that I constantly try to get past. That I'm not fully there yet with understanding how to get out of that matrix, but I'm working on it.
I appreciate you sharing that so honestly, and I think it's an excellent point that you're making through sharing your story and your experience, the power of media. And I think we are in a really interesting time now because it's harder and harder to shield young people and ourselves from media. Everything is media. And I think for a long time we tricked ourselves into thinking social media wasn't media, that it was just purely social. It was just, humans connecting and sharing things, and we kind of saw the good side of it. But more and more we understand it's an advertising tool, and we're digesting all of this information, all of this imagery, and it's affecting us. And so I think you sharing your story from childhood and how those people, those characters left such an imprint on you and affected your own sense of self, and you saw yourself as this character too. And that if I were to strip away this habit, then I'm not me. I'm not this character that was modeled for me. So I think it's really important for us to be, especially as content creators and people who take part in media, to be very, very aware and intentional about what we model and what we put out into the world. We get to be ourselves, but I think we also need to be very aware that it does have an impact on the people that we're trying to serve with the media.
That's so interesting that you say that because just as we were influenced by certain icons growing up, we could also have that influence on people growing up too. And we need to take that responsibility with the content we put out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's one beautiful thing about social media, despite the challenges, is when people like yourself very generously share their real stories of what they experienced growing up. And there's also, so Taylor Swift did a really interesting documentary when I think she was on her Reputation tour, and she talked about her body dysmorphia. And she spoke about, yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend
Oh,
watching it. It's really interesting.
interesting.
And she talked about how for her, she had to take times where she just didn't look at any pictures of herself, any social media, anything, because it was very triggering for her body dysmorphia, and she would literally stop eating. And I think many of us have this idea that someone like yourself, who's a very successful woman and an actor, or someone like Taylor Swift, who's one of the most successful women in the world, that you're somehow immune to these societal pressures and this messaging,
Oh.
but none of us are.
Well, that's so crazy that you bring it up. And I'm going to tie it back to telling you when I lost my mother and a lot of other uh, people and animals in my life that meant the world. It doesn't matter how rich and successful you are, it can't buy that. Okay.
Mm.
Nor could as much money in the world, unless you have the right coach. If you're dealing with body dysmorphia and you're suffering, it doesn't really matter how rich and famous you are. Like money cannot solve, I believe, the major problems in the world. They could just make the downtime more fun, but like all the money in the world, like you could have gotten Taylor Swift could have given $1 million to a dietitian, and that person, whoever they are, they're not me. and I probably wouldn't have even charged her to help her, and I have some answers for her. So it's
Mm.
like money doesn't necessarily mean access. You know what I mean?
What would you tell yourself, teenage you, knowing what you know now, having the experience you have now? What would you tell teenage Aesha to try to help dispel these ideas about her body and what she needed to do to fit in?
If I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have had those problems. It's just education, and hindsight is 2020. It's so
Mm,
painful to not have those answers, and then when you do, you don't need them anymore because now you're healed. On to the next problem.
mm. Yeah, the challenges in life do keep coming. And there's so much benefit in the wisdom of just the growth that we experience over life. Now, tell me
Yeah.
more about this I think it's one of the more recent chapters of your life, becoming a New York certified peer specialist. Tell me about that chapter in the book of your life.
So I was a personal trainer and a sports nutritionist. I still am, I'll always be, but I started realizing that my favorite part about helping people is like realizing what the origin of their problem was and kind of uprooting that, healing, helping heal them if they allow, and then like putting them in a different place to start succeeding. And I'm like, I could still personal train and do sports nutrition as a peer advocate, as a counselor. I want more. This isn't enough for me. And that's when I went back to school to become a peer advocate. And there are still people that want my nutrition and personal training advice, even as a peer, but I'm not limited to only helping people in that way now. So, oh, believe me, I put a pause on a master's program. I was in a master's program. I went 10 months in like psychology, mental health, and doing that and having a job and being an actress. I was starting to get like health problems from it, from the lack of sleep and just staying up all night, going to work, staying up all night doing reports, going to work the next day. I couldn't handle it. So I put it on freeze right now. So believe me, if I could have become a psychotherapist, I would have been, but I couldn't handle that. So I took one step back into mental health counseling, and I'm certified, but that's as much as my life could allow me to do right now. And I'm finally proud to say that without being ashamed, because I went to my master's program because I was ashamed that I wasn't a psychotherapist, but I'm not ashamed anymore.
Hmm. There's so much power in the pause and the recognition of self harm in patterns that we hold. And that's something that you've struggled with in your life. And I think it really shows you there. A lot of people believe, people who are spiritual or religious, they believe that they will be faced with the same problems over and over until they basically show that they can pass the test. And the
Yes, I'm
problems are going to look
spiritual.
different,
Yeah,
right?
I'm spiritual. I agree with you.
and and often we think about it often in things like relationships, right? You will have similar relationships and close friendships or romantic partners potentially, or business partners, over and over and over until you finally learn your lesson, and the next character
Yeah.
comes on the stage and you think, oh, thank goodness that last character that treated me badly, that they're gone, and the new character comes on stage. It's the same character, it's the same theme, because you didn't actually learn that lesson, even though you ended it or they ended
Amen.
it.
You got
And
it. Yeah.
it's so interesting. I love actually hearing you talk about that. Through your experience, you listened to your body, you saw the cycle repeating itself that had happened before in different aspects of your life, and you said, you know what, for me right now, I need to put a pause on this and I'm going to pursue something else. So I think there's so much power in that pause that you took, and the fact that you really proved to yourself that you learned your lesson.
No, no,
And
but keep in mind when you say that, I got past harming myself now. I didn't know I was harming myself by staying up all night doing papers. I didn't know I was harming myself. Even when I was like borderline, I don't like to say fully anorexic because I wasn't in the hospital. Let's just say borderline anorexic. I didn't realize I was like hurting myself. I just liked the way I looked when I was skinny and I was booking more work. So
Mm.
I only realized that I was hurting myself staying up all night doing papers and starving myself after I healed. I look back and I'm like, wow, why did I do that to myself? But while I was doing it, I thought I was doing the best for myself. I didn't think I was hurting myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless I took what you said in a different way than you meant it, then I'd be willing to answer that part of your question.
Mhm. What I heard you say earlier was that you realized that you needed to pause. And I think that's really important that we understand. I think in part that's why we stay in toxic relationships, jobs that don't serve us and our purpose, etc., is because I think many of us are waiting for a written notice that says this isn't working, this isn't your love of your life, this isn't your job, this isn't your career, time to move on. We're waiting for that in writing. And that's not how it happens. It's our nervous system that sends us these little messages every day that says like, oop, oh, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't align. That feels painful. I feel nervous. Why am I nervous? Or why am I exhausted? And so I do think that even though you didn't get the handwritten notice or crystallized thought that this isn't working, what I heard you say was that you listened to your body. You listened that this didn't work in this moment and that you needed to pivot.
So meaning when I was in my master's program, I'd finish work, I'd stay up all night, I'd drink like coffee at midnight, stay up
Mm.
all night doing papers, hardly sleep, and go to work the next day. I thought that I was really like killing it. But like looking back, I was hurting myself. So what I was saying in response to what you were saying is in the moment I didn't think I was hurting myself. I wasn't aware of that. It's when I'm like, I need to stop this. I need to put a pause on this. Then I looked back and I'm like, wow, that was really harmful. Like, but I wasn't like, you understand what I mean? Like, I wasn't aware that I was hurting myself at that moment. I thought I was like being a boss by like holding down a job and being in a master's program, you know?
What do you think it
Yeah.
is? Because I do think it is a not only unique to women, but I think it is a very common idea that we hold as women that if we're really hurting and exhausted, that we're killing it, right?
I,
That we need
right.
to be in that fight or flight survival mode to be worth our salt. You've tackled
Oh,
some other interesting topics in your writing as well. You wrote
yeah.
Swipe in 2020 and then followed by Swipe again in 2025 about the online and app-based dating culture. What experience did you and people you knew have that inspired you to write Swipe and Swipe again? What were you trying to communicate with those stories?
I found that part of my healing that I speak about is, and we all have a different process. Now, I could tell you my process, and I'm talking to the audience, and you could try it. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to work for you. This is a process that works for me. You might have to find your own process, but for me, I start at the problem in my journal, whether it is a food based anorexic type problem or a man problem. You just write down what the problem is. So for example, if you're writing a diet plan out, when do you cheat? How do you cheat? You start there at your lowest point and you build the diet around your worst mess up. And I do the same with my writing. I look at patterns and I look at, okay, this type of person is always lying to me. Let's ask some questions. Do I incorporate that as part of my day to day? Should I expect people to be liars? And should I embrace that that is going to be a part of my life? Or do I have to look out for red flags? And if so, what are they? So I always start my writing at the point of the problem and then I expand from there. Um, that's how I heal, because believe it or not, sometimes I incorporate my cheats in my plan. So part of my diet that I wrote, part of that is, well, I want to have one piece of chocolate cake a week. What do I have to do to make this possible for myself? How many times do I have to go to the gym? What do I have to eat the rest of the week? And how do I make this a part of my life? So you understand, like, I know what I'm going to do wrong. So I write that down. That's the best I could be. So how do I repair for that the rest of the week? Like, kind of like the 80-20 rule. I do that in the dating scene too in my books.
That's really interesting, and it's really
Thank
brilliant
you. Thank you so
because
much.
we we give so much energy and power to our mistakes when we kind of hide them, right? When we hide the
Yeah.
Oreos in the closet, we're like thinking about them all day long. But what you've said is, I'm going to eat Oreos because that's the thing that I really enjoy for my cheat. And how am I going to structure things around so that I don't give my power and my focus to Oreos all day because I'm just thinking about them being in the closet. And
Yeah.
instead, I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to get my Oreo. Don't worry. It's planned. And you just leave shame where it belongs, which is like down the block, not in your life because it never
I
helped
love
anybody
that.
do anything. Yeah, I
I
love
love
it too.
that. And it started with like doing the calorie count. Let's just say the piece of cake had like 1,000 calories. I'd go over to a stairmaster, type in like, how long do I have to stay on this to eat that piece of cake? So it started like that. But I
Hmm.
definitely learned that life is about paying the price.
And structuring your life around, okay, how am I going to? I know. And, when we take out a loan for something, we know we have to pay back the loan. So it's a really interesting way of thinking about it. And when we think about
Yeah.
our nutrition and our energy, it is very true, calories in, calories out with some variation based on metabolism, et cetera.
Yeah.
But being mindful of that, if you are having goals for your fitness, for your weight, to get to a healthy weight for you, being mindful of nutrition, being mindful of what it is you're eating, the protein, right? So if you're bodybuilding, et cetera, it's really important to be just aware and mindful. And when you become intentional and mindful and you actually write out the plan, it can take away some of the power away from and the shame and guilt away from the diet. It just makes it, no, it's just
100%.
a diet. It's on
Yep.
paper. It has less power now. I love that.
100%.
How are you using your energy now after, like we were just discussing, how you've taken back your energy, right? You're not having the same relationship with food. You've healed that relationship with food, and you've taken
Oh, yeah.
on an anti-bullying advocacy stance. You've
Yeah.
really faced so many of the challenges in your life. So now that you have all this energy back, you're not just losing it to these external sources any longer. With that and the lessons you've
Yeah.
learned, how are you going to use that energy now?
There's a couple more things on my to-do list before I move back into the manifestation phase. I have some things I need to work out. As far as goals, yes, I want to continue on to The Last Ronin and Mutant Mayhem with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But the connections I had back then are not the connections I have right now. So right now, I'm putting my energy on talking to casting directors, or maybe even getting agents or managers to take me on and help me get into the next projects. It is a huge goal of mine, and I'm willing to take other projects along the way to my goal. Um, Career wise, I have that going on. I also feel like I want to add like an addendum to Swipe Part 2. I feel like there's at least 100 more pages I could add to it. That book has about 300 pages. I'm feeling it could be a 400-page book. So I feel like I'm either going to put out a new book or add to that one. I'm not sure. So I'm working on that.
Since you wrote Swipe 2, which wasn't that long ago, but we are living in such a fast-paced world right now. How do you think that the online dating and app dating world has evolved? And how do you think people can navigate that in a healthy and safe way with the changes?
To being safe, I would never meet someone in a place where you're alone, including their car, if you don't know them pretty well. Like, don't do that. um, there's pros and cons. You're gonna be kind of like washed out. There's gonna be so many people that want what you want. You almost feel like a tidal wave is gonna like wash over you before you even have a chance to show who you are. But you gotta believe that what's meant for you is gonna be yours. Um, So, for example, the opportunities that you're going to have now are going to be a lot more than the past, but the price you're going to pay for it is you're going to be washed over. So, you have to hold on and really believe that what you want and what you're manifesting is going to come to you and that it's yours already. So, it's really going to test you, but you got to be strong.
Hmm. Do you think, with your experience, do you think people can find love and authentic connection in this kind of artificially created world of online dating? Or are there
Right.
other things that you would encourage people to try when they're trying to make these meaningful connections?
I would say, as much as people are still being idealistic about their traditional life that their grandparents had when they came to America, most of us, things have changed. So think about what you're willing to sacrifice as far as, so it might be okay to have a blended family these days, for example. I personally don't want to have children. However, if a man has a child, that's fine. I'll raise that child, but I don't want a child, me. I don't want one. It doesn't mean that I don't care if other people have children. Whereas in my grandmother's generation, you meet someone, you're old fashioned, you have a kid together, you raise that kid together. Divorce was unheard of. No one in my family ever got a divorce. These days, it might happen. You might get a divorce. You got to look, hey, this might happen. Do I want to give the best years of my life to this person knowing they may leave? And what does that look like for me afterwards? You got to start thinking more into the future. You got to shift some of the old fashioned ways that we were raised, even Generation Z. Their parents or their grandparents could have old fashioned influence on them. It's not over yet. They're not that far removed from waiting in a parlor to take a woman out. Like, it's not that long ago. So, gotta expect things to be a little bit different. Like, maybe one day I will get married and my husband will not even live in America. And that's okay because it's 2025. It's not our grandparents' generation. Maybe that's okay. And maybe one day my cat, Gigi, passed away. God rest her soul. I am not ready to get another animal, but maybe one day I will have a dog that I raise, not a child. Things might be different. That's okay. Go with the times.
Embrace the life that you're living right now. And I think that's the best any of us can do every day, and let go again of feelings of shame or expectation, and live the life that we're living today and make the best plans we can for the future. And I
Yeah.
love your energy and how you have really learned how to, as you described earlier, kind of hold on when those waves go over you. Hold on, right? Don't
Yes.
waste your energy swimming the wrong direction if the tide's coming for you. Hold on. And then when the moment's right, you make your move. And you've done that in so many ways in your life. It's really inspiring. And I hope that everyone
Thank
can
you.
go and read your books and follow you on social media. What's the best way for our audience to connect with you and learn more about your books and what you are trying to create?
I kind of use, as of recently, my Instagram as a hub. I shut down my website, and that's kind of my main portal. So it's my full name, Aesha Wax. You could tell it's my page because it has a blue check mark. There are other Aesha Wax pages. Mine is the one with the blue check mark. It has my middle name, Aesha, middle name Hash, last name Wax. It definitely throws people off that my middle name is in there, but that is my page. That is where I host links to Barnes and Noble, podcasts, things I'm selling, like I have fans sending me original Foot Clan headbands. Well, he's actually more of a partner, but like I have people like making dolls for me, decks of cards for me, and we're like splitting profits. Like I have eBay pages where people are buying things right now, strange things like chewed gum. Like I'm gonna save this piece of gum and sell it later. Um, Life is weird, but you just gotta go with the flow, you know?
It is weird, but I do think that, our generation, it's like 100 years later, my father's generation, my father's just shy of 90. And, when he grew up, you had to be willing to do what you could do to make ends meet, to put food on the table. You didn't have extra. It was the time of war and the Great Depression, and you did what you had to do for your family. We didn't worry so much about how things looked or what people expected of us. We just did what we needed to do. And we have had so many years of relative abundance and stability. And now I do feel for generations that in a lot of ways do have it harder than their parents did. And they're having to really embrace this gig, we call it like the gig economy, where you're doing everything you can to get by. But there's also some beauty in that of letting go of ego and expectations and saying, what can I do with the gifts I have and the interest there is in this that is safe and it's not hurting anyone? There's something really interesting about the creativity that happens when you do have to really hustle and make it work. And I think those are often the years that when we're older, we look back and we think, oh man, remember that time I was singing in the subway and a producer came up to me and actually I sang a record with them because I decided I was going
Man.
to just go sing in a subway. Those are the memories that you look back on. You're like, good for me for doing that weird thing. That was
Wow, that
cool.
happened?
Oh
That's
yeah.
oh, that's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that.
That's but
I
I
love
think those
that.
are some of the best stories, like that you sold your gum to someone and then maybe it was this interesting kind of, who knows? I love this kind of embracing, yeah, life's weird, I'm out here living it. I think there's a lot of beauty in that, so I applaud you. I think it's really cool.
I love the fact that you sang in the subway and you got discovered like that. That's like a dream right there.
Yeah, it was one of those things, and it was kind of similar to some of the stories that you've told. I had already been an R&B music for a long time because I grew up in the Midwest, Indianapolis area, and R&B was really popular there. And then I moved to New York City, and I was living on couches. And then I started NYU.
Yeah.
We're both NYU alums here, and I was doing the school. Your story resonated so much with me with schooling. I was doing school during the day, and then at night I would go to the recording studio and I would record until 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I go and lay my head down for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then get up and do it all again. Read my calculus for my class for the School of Music Business. Doing all of the things, hustling, trying to make it work. And it was an exhausting time of life, and I couldn't survive doing it, nor would I recommend it to anyone. It's not healthy. But
Wow.
man, those were the years. Those were the years that you tried things. And I think that's something that for my platform, I really love to try to get people excited about. If you lean into your creativity and into your passion, can we get back actually some of those more fulfilling and healthy moments of our lives? Not the dark ones, not the hard ones where we made bad decisions, we didn't know any better and we didn't have the support we needed, but the really exciting moments where we did the scary thing because why not? What have I got to lose? When we get older, we
Right.
think we have so much to lose, but we lose more if we don't try.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what are you going to do? Is there anything that's been on your mind that you've been a little afraid to try that now you're like, you know what, I'm going to do that thing?
It's been really hard because everyone's like, "Oh, you should play Karai and The Last Ronin." And they're just saying it like just because I was in the first movie, as if I still talk to anyone. And it's just been really hard to deal with the fact that I don't know who I should be talking to continue with the films. It's like everything changed. The way casting works changed. So I'm like really challenged in a lot of ways right now, like in that way, and to try to get back into the films and like a whole bunch of challenges I have that are really difficult for me, just like everyone else. But at least I'm facing things head on and trying to make it happen instead of running away. And I feel like a lot of people these days, the minute a challenge comes on, they run away. But what are they running from? It's only going to find them again and haunt them. Get it over with.
I love it. Meet it face on. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Aesha,
Thank you.
for sharing your story with us today and inspiring us to do the hard things, to face those challenges, and really pursue our passions. I know I'm feeling very inspired, and storytellers, I'm sure that you are too. As always, until next time, stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Everybody's lonely, but you can hold on to